I remember the exact moment my world cracked. Not broke, not shattered, just cracked, clean and quiet like a mirror that suddenly shows a version of you that never existed. It was a rainy Thursday. The kind where the clouds hang low, like they're eavesdropping on your every thought. I was sitting in the kitchen of my parents' house, my old home, watching the rain collect on the window ledge while my fingers absently touched the empty spot on my ring finger. That spot had once held a 1.8-carat oval diamond set in platinum. Classic. Understated. Ethan had said it reminded him of me. I'd worn it for 13 months. And then I didn't. Not because we broke up. Not because I called off the wedding, but because one night I came home early from a conference and found my sister wearing it, laughing, barefoot in the hallway, twisting her hair around her finger as she turned toward him. Ethan, my fiancé, my ex-fiancé, I suppose. You're overreacting, my mother had said the next morning, not even glancing up from her tablet. She didn't steal it. Ethan gave it to her. And maybe it was always meant to be hers. Always meant to be hers. As if fate had been waiting for me to pave the road so she could waltz down it in designer heels. My sister Claire has always had a way of getting things that weren't hers. Toys, attention, scholarships, and now, apparently, men. Growing up, she was the golden child, the one with dimples and dance recitals and a string of fragile trophies on her shelf that she never dusted, but always displayed. I was the quiet one, the planner, the dependable daughter. When I got engaged to Ethan, it was the first time I felt like the spotlight had been mine, ours. We were building something. Our first apartment lease was signed in both our names. I planned the engagement, party, the menu, the seating chart. Ethan always said he wasn't great with details. He didn't need to be. I handled everything. I didn't know Claire had been handling him. The official story was this. After months of fighting, arguments that weren't really arguments, just empty spaces where his eyes didn't meet mine anymore, Ethan and I amicably split. The wedding was postponed, then canceled. That's what my parents told people. No one knew I'd walked into our apartment that night and seen Claire wearing my ring and my robe, asking Ethan if they had any more of that Chilean red left. She didn't even look surprised to see me, like she'd already imagined it. This scene, this theft, this twisted romance. Like the only missing part was the audience. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I left. I packed 2 suitcases that night and moved into a short-term rental near my office. I took my toothbrush, my files, my dignity, and nothing else. Let them have the apartment. Let them play house with the furniture I paid for. Let them wrap their fingers around the life I designed like it was always theirs. I said nothing. Not to Ethan. Not to Claire. Not to our friends. I disappeared from the wedding group chat. Deleted the Pinterest board. Ghosted the florist and refunded the band deposit myself. And then I waited. Because grief makes you silent. But betrayal? Betrayal makes you focused. 3 weeks later, the engagement was official. They didn't even change the ring. Same band, same stone, same box. The only difference was who wore it, and who smiled smugly across the brunch table at our parents while they said, "Isn't it funny how things turn out?" Claire never said sorry. Neither did Ethan. But I wasn't waiting for an apology. I was watching. Listening. They thought I was broken. They thought I'd be small about it. They thought I'd move on and vanish. Instead, I started quietly unraveling their future, piece by piece. Because while Claire was busy curating their love story on Instagram, and Ethan was busy mimicking all the sweet things I once planned, I was busy making calls to the apartment leasing office, to our joint vendor contracts, to the cousin who was a corporate attorney, and to someone who still owed me a favor. A big one. I didn't want the ring anymore. I wanted the life they thought they stole from me to turn into something that haunted them, not with screams or scandals, but with silence and consequences. I didn't post about the breakup. I didn't delete Ethan's pictures either. I left everything as it was, carefully curated, a preserved illusion. Let the world keep believing we were still together. That illusion had power, more than either of them realized, because the only thing more dangerous than a woman scorned is one who knows how to wait in silence. My first move was subtle. I logged into the shared wedding registry, the one I had spent 3 weeks perfecting back when I still believed we were forever, and I quietly updated the delivery address. Everything. They'd added the French press, the wine decanter, the matching monogrammed towel set. I let it all ship to my new address. I knew the packages would start arriving in batches. Claire wouldn't notice immediately. She was too busy updating her Pinterest bio to soon-to-be Mrs. Ethan Cole and reposting stories about divine timing. But when she finally checked the order status, she'd see. Delivered. Somewhere else. To someone else. The second move wasn't even mine. It was Ethan's. He forgot to remove my email from the venue planning correspondence. So every vendor, every schedule update, every catering menu draft, every digital seating chart and revised invoice came to me first. I didn't reply. I just read, watched, waited, until I saw an email from the florist. Subject line, final confirmation for the Cole wedding centerpiece order. I knew what flowers Claire had picked, the same ones I had originally chosen, but I also knew what she was allergic to, so I edited the order, just slightly. Instead of soft ivory peonies and eucalyptus, I changed it to lilies and a heavy cascade of baby's breath. Harmless for most. But Claire? She sneezed if someone mentioned pollen. I was careful. No sabotage that could be traced. No paper trails. No angry texts. Only small edits. Quiet switches. Contracts amended by someone with the authority still legally on file. She wanted my wedding. She could keep the chaos too. My parents barely spoke to me. They didn't know where I was living. I never told them I moved out. They thought I needed space. What I needed was distance. Distance to see them for who they were. My mother had called the new arrangement a better fit. She said Claire had the temperament to be a wife, that I'd always been too independent. As if that was a flaw, as if building a career and never asking for help made me difficult. My father hadn't said anything at all. He just kept reading his paper, nodding in agreement like his silence was neutral. It wasn't. Silence is never neutral. By the time their wedding website went live, the countdown had begun. 76 days to go. Claire posted a slow-motion video of Ethan kissing her hand, my ring glittering against a backdrop of sunset. The caption said, "He chose me in the end. Real, love always wins real love." I stared at that phrase for a long time. What is real love? A promise? A contract? A ring? No, it's consistency. loyalty, decency. Ethan had none of that. And deep down, I don't think Claire did either. She just liked winning, so I made sure the win wouldn't last. Remember the cousin who owed me a favor? Julian, contract lawyer, ruthless in a way that didn't require raised voices. He was the one who helped me freeze the apartment lease, because technically the contract still had my name on it. Ethan never finalized the new co-sign agreement with Claire. So the moment rent was due, and he tried to update the card on file, declined, then locked. Julian helped me file for a formal property audit, which meant they had 15 days to vacate or face legal scrutiny for unauthorized tenancy. I wasn't kicking them out. I was following the law, and the law was still, for now, on my side. I didn't show up to confront them. That would have been too dramatic, too expected. Instead, I waited until the leasing office confirmed the keys were dropped off and the unit was cleared. Then I went back. The apartment still smelled, like citrus and Ethan's cologne. Some of Claire's things were left behind. Cheap perfume, a cracked makeup mirror, a few pieces of mail that now carried her last name in marker across the envelopes. I dropped them in the trash. Then I lit a candle and sat in my old living room, like nothing had ever happened. Because this wasn't revenge. Not yet. This was reclamation. The final step was subtle. I made one call to the wedding venue. They didn't recognize my voice. Just the contract ID, I asked for a transfer of the deposit. Not a refund, a transfer, to a different bride, different groom, same venue. They confirmed it. I had the receipts. And Claire? She had no venue, just a dress, and a ring that didn't shine quite the same anymore. It took her 5 days to notice. 5 days before Claire's Instagram story broke its regular rhythm of curated selfies and bridal inspo quotes to post a black screen with a single caption. Some people will do anything to ruin your happiness. No names, no details, but I knew it was for me, like everything else had been. I didn't reply. I just watched the cracks begin to form. A friend from our old friend group messaged me, "Are you okay? I heard there's drama with Claire's wedding venue. Also, did she really use your ring?" I ignored the question. People like that don't ask because they care. They ask because they're collecting details. Claire had always thrived on people talking about her, even if it was pity, even if it was scandal. As long as the spotlight was hers, she considered it power. But this was different. This wasn't gossip. This was consequence. Apparently, Claire found out about the venue after a dress fitting. Mid-spin, the boutique owner casually asked her if she was still getting married at the Arlo estate. Claire, already glowing from compliments and more compliments, had smiled and said yes. Except the boutique owner looked confused. "I think that's been transferred to another client last week," she'd said. Claire laughed. "No, that's not possible." But it was. And the shock of it was so profound. She left the boutique with one shoe still on. I imagined her pacing the apartment they were now sharing with Ethan's friend, since their lease was void. I imagined the fight, the accusations, and Ethan, with his useless, passive voice, probably saying things like, "Let's not overreact," or maybe it was just a mistake. Claire didn't like mistakes, especially ones she couldn't blame on someone else. The next day, I received a call unknown number. I didn't answer. Then came a text. "You've made your point. Can we meet?" Claire. No apology. No remorse. Just control. As always. I waited a few hours. Let her marinate in the silence. Then I replied, "I'll meet you at the cafe on 6th, 3 p.m. Don't be late." The cafe was nearly empty when I arrived. I chose the corner table, the same one we used to sit at during high school when she wanted to borrow my clothes or copy my homework. She walked in exactly 4 minutes late. Hair perfect, nails done, sunglasses too big for the weather. The ring sparkled on her finger. My ring. She didn't even bother taking it off. "Nice place," she said, sliding into the seat across from me like this was just another casual coffee catch-up. I didn't respond. She sighed. "Look, I get it. You're upset. But all of this, freezing our lease, the packages, the venue, it's petty, even for you." I tilted my head. "Petty? You mean like wearing your sister's engagement ring and pretending it was always yours?" She narrowed her eyes. "I didn't pretend. Ethan gave it to me." "Right," I said softly. "Because it was always meant for you." Her expression faltered for half a second. Then she composed herself, curling her fingers tightly around her coffee cup. "What do you want, really? An apology? Closure?" I leaned forward. "No, Claire. I want you to understand that there are things in this world you can't just take and expect them to still mean the same thing." She blinked. "Are you threatening me?" "I'm telling you," I said, voice calm, "that you can have the ring, and the wedding, and even the man. But you will never have peace, because deep down you know exactly what you are." She stood up so fast her chair scraped back sharply. Her voice dropped low. "You're just jealous." I smiled. "No, Claire, I'm free." She left, but she didn't post for 3 days. A record. Later that week, Ethan texted me. Just one line. I didn't know she was like this. I didn't answer. Some truths are meant to haunt you. Claire always came undone in 2 stages. First, she'd implode. Then she'd perform. And just as I expected, 3 days of silence ended with an explosion of curated damage control. She posted a video, shaky, soft-lit, set to some indie piano track. Tears glistened but never fell. The caption read, "Some people don't want to see you happy, but love always wins. Still, getting married." Stronger. Now, the comments were a split battlefield. Some cheered her on. "Yes is queen. Haters gonna hate. You deserve this ring. You deserve everything." Others were skeptical. Wait, is this about her sister? This is weirdly vague. Did something happen? But the one that caught my eye was from Ethan's college friend Mason. Maybe start by admitting the truth. That might be a good place to begin. It got 47 likes before she deleted it. I hadn't posted a single thing. I didn't need to, because by then, the truth had begun slipping out in fragments. The florist called her to confirm the corrected arrangement, the one I altered. Claire threw such a fit that she was blacklisted from 3 boutique vendors in the city. Then the caterer called to say the deposit had been redirected by the primary client, and unfortunately, there was nothing they could do. Their guest list was shrinking too. Word was spreading. People didn't want to get involved. And when people don't want to be involved, they disappear quietly. "Oh, sorry, we'll be out of town." Or, "We decided not to travel for weddings this year. Only people who care show up when the truth gets messy." Claire didn't have many of those. I hadn't spoken to Ethan since the text. But I'd heard things. Through mutual friends, through whispers, through gaps in conversations that started with, I don't want to pick sides, but apparently he'd started noticing things. How Claire treated waitstaff. How she changed stories mid-conversation. How she told him she'd sacrificed everything to be with him. As if his betrayal was some kind of gift she gave the world. He had doubts. But men like Ethan rarely leave loudly. They rot in quiet resentment. First, and rot has a smell you can't ignore forever. One afternoon, I stopped by the old apartment to pick up a package accidentally delivered to my name. The new tenant, a kind woman with a toddler on her hip, handed it to me with a smile. "By the way," she said, "I still get your mail sometimes. I can forward it if you like." "Thanks," I said. "No need." I walked down the familiar hallway. The carpet was new. The lighting had changed, but the ghosts were still there. I could almost hear Claire's laughter echoing through the walls. That high, practiced laugh that always came before a lie. I didn't miss her. I didn't miss him. But I missed who I thought they were. And then, I let that go too. Later that week, my mother called me. I almost didn't answer, but something in me, morbid curiosity maybe, picked up. Her voice was tight. "You haven't spoken to Claire, have you?" "No," I said flatly. "Why?" There was a pause. "She's not doing well. She says you've been trying to ruin her life. Is that true?" I smiled, but only to myself. I haven't done anything she didn't deserve. My mother exhaled slowly. "This is family, sweetheart. You don't get to just destroy each other." She started it. "She's your sister." "No," I said. "She's your daughter. I'm the other one." I hung up before she could reply. It was the first time I'd spoken that truth aloud, and it didn't hurt. It felt like armor. A week later, I got an invitation in the mail. Claire's wedding, revised date, new venue, smaller guest list. No +1. Aloud. It was addressed to Miss, not maid of honor, not beloved sister, just my name, spelled wrong. I didn't RSVP, but I did keep the envelope, because some things are better framed than forgotten. The wedding was now 2 weeks away. It would be smaller, quieter, less of a spectacle than Claire had planned. But she was still going through with it, too stubborn to cancel, too proud to admit defeat. And Ethan? He was still pretending he wanted this. That was the most tragic part. He looked like a man walking into a house already on fire, holding a glass of water, telling himself it might be enough. I heard from Julian again. My cousin, the lawyer. "Still want to play it quiet?" he asked over coffee. "Yes," I said. "But I want her to feel it, not with a bang. With doubt." Doubt? Something she can't explain away. Something she can't Instagram filter. He leaned back. "So, psychological warfare?" I smiled. "Precisely. That week, Claire's maid of honor, her college friend Ava, dropped out. Claimed her new job wouldn't give her the time off. But I knew the truth. Ava had texted me. You didn't deserve what she did. I can't stand up there and pretend. One by one, the facade was crumbling. The florist pulled out completely after the last email debacle. Claire posted an update saying she'd decided to DIY the arrangements herself for a personal touch. And Ethan's best man. He never booked the speech slot with the planner, because he wasn't coming. He was in Arizona, on a contract job Ethan thought he could talk him out of. but the job paid well, and loyalty has its limits. Meanwhile, I was preparing my final move. Not a scene, not a scandal, just a mirror. There was a photographer Claire had fired after the original venue canceled. Someone I had hired. Someone who had worked with both of us before. I reached out to her privately, and I booked a shoot. Same day as Claire's wedding. Same dress as before. The dress. The one I bought for my own wedding. The one Claire mocked, then tried on behind my back. I wore it again. Not because I missed it, but because she never got to see how I looked in it. The shoot was styled deliberately. Soft golden lighting, a vineyard backdrop, no groom, no bouquet. Just me, standing alone, sunlight catching the diamonds in my ears, that dress hugging my body, the way self-worth does after heartbreak. The photographer posted it on her site with one caption: "She didn't lose the wedding." She lost the weight of their expectations. No tags, no names. But Claire saw it. I know because 2 hours later, I got a DM. No words, just a screenshot of the photo. And then, "You're pathetic." I didn't respond, because she wasn't talking to me. She was talking to the reflection. The day of the wedding arrived. Cloudy, not stormy, just dull. Claire posted a black and white selfie in a robe monogrammed bride. Her eyes looked tired, the smile tight. There was no tagged location, no live stories, no bridesmaids in sight. And Ethan? He posted nothing at all. Later that night, I got one final text from a number I hadn't seen in weeks. "Ethan, you were right. That was it." 3 words, not a plea, not an apology, just an echo from the ruins. I didn't ask what happened at the wedding. I didn't need to. The silence told me everything. No gallery, no reels, no Mr. and Mrs. Cole announcement. Just a single, overly filtered photo uploaded 2 days later. Claire, alone, clutching a bouquet of wilting white roses, smiling at something out of frame. The caption read, "A new chapter begins," even if the story changed halfway through. There was no mention of Ethan, no glimpse of him, no hand in hers. And I noticed something else. The ring was gone. I found out the rest through Ava. Quietly, off the record. They had the ceremony. Technically, a last-minute officiant, a few family members who still showed up out of obligation, and Claire in a dress that no longer zipped right across her back. Ethan had shown up late, disheveled, hungover or just regretful. No one could tell. But the vows? He forgot his, and when it was time to kiss the bride, he hesitated just a moment too long. Long enough for everyone to notice. Long enough for her to notice. 3 days later, he moved out of the apartment. Not with shouting. Not with bags thrown, downstairs or broken plates. Just silence. He left a single note behind. "I don't know who I am in this, but I know I'm not who you want me to be." He didn't take the ring either. Claire tried to recover fast. She changed her last name, on social media anyway. She captioned her selfies with affirmations and floral emojis. She posted a reel of herself throwing petals on a beach to an acoustic cover of Stronger. But behind it, the panic showed. A woman who stole everything and still came up empty. "My mother called again. This time her voice was softer. "I saw the photo," she said. I stayed quiet. "You looked happy. Healthier than I've seen you in years." I said nothing. She paused. "Claire's hurting. I let the silence stretch until it grew uncomfortable. "Are you calling to ask me to fix it?" I asked finally. "No," she said after a moment. "I'm calling because I think I finally understand that I never tried to fix it when it was you who was hurting." I didn't know what to say, so I said the one thing I hadn't in months. "Thank you." The next week, a letter arrived in the mail. No return address. Thick envelope. My name handwritten in blue ink. Inside was the ring. No note. No explanation. Just the ring in its original box. Velvet, navy, still pristine. But it didn't sparkle the same. I stared at it for a long time, turning it over in my fingers. Then I closed the lid and tucked it into the drawer of my desk. Not out of pain, out of peace. Because finally, I didn't want it anymore. But I wasn't done yet. Not quite. Because Claire still thought the worst had passed. She didn't know about the trust. The one Grandpa left me. The one she and Ethan tried to access right before their engagement, using the spare keys I had foolishly left at my parents' house. She thought no one would notice the attempt, but I did, and I filed the report quietly. I didn't press charges then, but I still could, and I was no longer afraid to be the villain in her story. There's a particular kind of power in not needing to be loud, in watching the ones who hurt you slowly unravel in their own silence, in letting consequences rise like floodwater, quiet, steady, impossible to escape. Claire had always depended on distractions, glamour, noise, performance. But now, no Ethan, no wedding parade, no spotlight bright enough to disguise the cracks. Revisited the trust file. Julian had kept everything sharp and airtight. He knew my grandfather's estate better than anyone. Knew what Claire and Ethan tried to do before they ever made it public. They'd accessed a dormant folder in his legal archive using my name and a digital proxy login, likely guessed, or maybe copied when I left my files open once at my parents' house. They were looking for my share, because Grandpa had been smart, and he'd left us both something. But the conditions for access? Only one of us qualified. Claire had always assumed the inheritance was hers, despite never caring for Grandpa, despite skipping half his birthdays, despite forgetting, more than once, that he was diabetic. I was the one who drove him to appointments, who answered the 3 a.m. phone calls when he mixed up his meds, who cleaned out his fridge when he fell asleep with the oven on. He left me the larger share, but he never told anyone. It was only after I logged into the estate portal that I saw it all spelled out. Assets totaling $312,000 in dividends and property. Equity, with a clause that barred any access to secondary beneficiaries if they were found to have used coercion or deception during probate review. In other words, if Claire tried to lie, she got nothing. Which meant when she and Ethan attempted to access the account, through me, they unknowingly disqualified herselves. Julian documented everything, screenshots, access timestamps, the digital signature Claire tried to forge. At the time, I'd frozen the inquiry, quietly. But now I press submit. The legal notice went out 2 days later. Claire received it by courier while she was at brunch, probably pretending to still be a wife. Julian said she signed for it with trembling hands. The packet included a formal statement of forfeiture, barring her from any future claims to the trust, along with an option, contest the ruling, and risk criminal charges, or walk away, broke, and exposed. I waited, not for her to contact me, but to react. Because Claire always reacts. 4 days passed. Then I got a message. No name. Just a screenshot of a Venmo request Claire had sent to a mutual friend. Hey babe, would you mind covering my half of the electric bill just for now? Things are a little tight. The same girl who once said I couldn't relate to real pressure was now publicly scrambling to split utilities. And then came the twist I didn't expect. Ethan messaged me again, this time longer. She told me about the trust. Said you. Set her up. I know now how badly I messed this up. I just wanted to say, if I could go back, I would have chosen differently. I stared at the message. Not with longing, not with pain, just a quiet, dull recognition. He still thought he was the one who got to choose. I didn't reply, but I screenshotted it, and I printed it, folded it into a small envelope, and mailed it to Claire. No note, just his words. So she'd know. So she'd feel it. So she'd understand that. She'd never really won him, just borrowed him. Briefly. The ring stayed in my drawer. But my peace, that was finally mine again. And I wasn't done. Because the house my grandfather left? It wasn't just equity. It was real estate. And someone had just vacated it. Guess who used to live there rent-free while mocking me? Claire. And guess who now legally owned it? The house sat at the top of Hawthorne Street, quiet and square, with peeling white shutters and a porch swing that never stopped creaking, even when the wind was still. It had been my grandfather's house for 40 years. And then, for a little while, Claire's. Not legally. Not officially, but she treated it like hers after the funeral. Walked through the front door with shopping bags and scented candles and smug declarations like, "It just makes sense for me to live here. You've got your apartment and job, and I've got, well, flexibility." I had nodded at the time, silent, grieving, numb. That version of me no longer existed. Julian handled the paperwork swiftly. The title had been transferred to me months ago. Claire had simply never asked who it was left to. She just assumed, like she always did. Assumed she was the center. Assumed I would stay quiet. Assumed wrong. The eviction notice was delivered on a Thursday. She was still living there despite everything, after. Ethan left, after the wedding embarrassment, after the forfeited trust. Like the house would protect her. Like her history in it gave her ownership. But law doesn't care about history. Law cares about names on deeds. And mine was the only one that mattered. She called me. 12 missed calls in a row. I didn't answer any of them. The last one came at midnight. She didn't leave a voicemail. But I imagined her pacing in that front room, still in one of my old sweatshirts she borrowed years ago, panicking. I imagined her staring at the notice, rereading it, checking the mailbox like it might disappear. It wouldn't. The following week I visited, not to gloat, not to argue, just to see it. The house. And her. She opened the door like she'd been waiting. Hair tied in a careless knot, eyes hollow, but angry. "You can't do this," she said. "I already have," I replied. She stepped outside, folding her arms. "You think you're better than me now? Because you got the house? The money?" "No," I said quietly. "I've always been better. You just convinced me I wasn't." She flinched. The wind picked up. The porch swing creaked behind her. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small box. "The ring." "Take it back," she said. I looked at it for a long time, then shook my head. No. That story's yours now. All of it. And I turned. I had. The locks changed 2 days later. The furniture she left behind was cheap. Fast bought. Pretty for Instagram, not built to last. I boxed it up. Donated it all. I kept one thing, though. A chipped photo frame she left in the upstairs bedroom. The photo was gone, but the words engraved on the border read, "Family is forever." I placed it on the hallway shelf as a reminder, not of her, but of what I no longer owed her. Months passed. Peace came slowly. The house began to feel like mine. I repainted the porch, replaced the creaky swing, started planting roses out front, Grandpa's favorite. I had friends over. I laughed more. One evening, I stood in the doorway with a glass of wine, watching the sun dip behind the hills, gold streaking the sky. For the first time in a long time, I felt nothing behind me. No resentment, no noise, just air, just quiet, just me. Claire moved out of state eventually. I heard she's renting a 1-bedroom with roommates. She still posts affirmations, but the sparkle's gone from her captions. No more rings, no more weddings, just filtered sunsets and vague quotes about letting go. Good, I already had.